Today we're still going to be continuing in our discussion about equations of lines. Alright, but today we're going to take a look at parallel lines. Okay, take your page again, fold it hot dog style just so that you could have a crease in the middle so we can take our notes. Alright, parallel lines. The big thing that you need to know about parallel lines is that they have the same slope m, okay, which means two lines are parallel. They have the same slope, because if they didn't have the same slope they would meet. So they have the same slope. So anytime you're doing one of these problems, you want to look at the equation y equals mx plus b, and you're focusing only on the slope. If you find that the slope m is the same, they are parallel. Alright, so let's take a look at a quick example. Example 1. Alright, prove that the following lines are parallel. Okay, and then the two questions that we're going to take a look at is x minus 2y equals 4 and negative x plus 2y equals 3. Okay, so first you have to make them look like this so you can see if the slope is parallel, if the slope is the same, so that you know it's parallel or not. So let's make them both look like that. Get y by itself. What's the first thing you need to do? Correct. Go ahead and subtract x from both sides. All right, when you subtract x from both sides, you're going to be left with what? Negative 2y equals, and I'm just going to put the negative x first because I want my x first and then my b second, so negative x plus 4. Now what are you going to do? Good. Divide everything by negative 2. So you're going to get y equals, negative divided by negative is going to give you a what? Positive. And so you're going to have 1/2 x plus 4 divided by negative 2. I forgot a negative there. 4 divided by negative 2 is going to be negative 2. Okay, so that's that equation. Now doing the next one, what's the very first thing that you're going to do to both sides? Add x to both sides. Alright, so you're going to get left with 2y equals x plus 3. Now what? Divide by 2. Alright, what does that simplify to? Y equals 1/2 x plus 3 over 2. Perfect. Now your lines look like y equals mx plus b. You can quickly take a look at the slope. The slope is what's attached to x. So here I have 1/2, here I have 1/2. So because the slopes are the same, the lines are parallel. And that's really all there is to it. Okay. In geometry, you'll be asked, why are these two lines parallel? And you'll have to find the slope either from a graph or from one of these questions. And then you'll say they're parallel because the slope is the same. Perfect. All right, next thing. Perpendicular. Perpendicular lines. Okay, with perpendicular lines it's a little bit trickier, but all you have to do is flip the slope and add a negative. All right, but what you're going to really see in textbooks is that when you multiply them together, in other words, when you take the product, they're going to equal negative 1. Okay, and what does perpendicular look like? It means that the slopes intersect at a 90-degree angle. They intersect at a 90-degree angle. Okay, so how do you prove that? If you flip the slope and add a negative, they should be equal to each other. If they're not perpendicular. So example 2. All right, prove that the following lines are perpendicular. Prove that the following lines are perpendicular. All right, so let's take a look at two lines, two equations. Y equals 3 over 4x plus 2, and let's look at negative 4x minus 3y equals negative 3. Okay, so here are two lines again. We need to prove that they're perpendicular by flipping the slope. Again, we have to put the slope in y equals mx plus b so we can take a look at m. All right, so for these, you have to know what m is in order to know if they're perpendicular or parallel. All right, so this one, look, it's already set up for you. So I already can see the slope of this one is 3 over 4. This other one is not set up, so I need to go ahead and solve it. So we're going to make y the subject. What are we going to do to both sides first? Add 4x. So we'll get negative 3y equals 4x minus 3. Now what are you going to do? Good. Divide by negative 3 to everything. And what does that simplify to? Y equals negative 4 over 3x. Negative divided by negative will give you a positive. 3 divided by 3 will give you 1. Perfect. So now we have the slope of that line, which is right before that x, which is negative 3 over 3. Now, the way the flipping thing works is if you take anything, any one of them, either one of them, I'll do both. Take this one, flip it. So you're going to flip it. So the 4 is going to go on top, 3 is going to go on the bottom, and then add a negative. So now you're going to have negative 4 over 3. Look, that's exactly what it has. So they're perpendicular. Don't take the next one, do the exact same thing, and prove that when you flip it, add a negative, you get this. So take this. Okay, you're going to go ahead and flip it. So the 3 is going to go on top, the 4 is on the bottom, then add a negative. So you got 3 over 4 and then 2 negatives. And you know that 2 negatives together are going to give you what? A positive. So they are both equal. In the book, the way you're going to see is the product. The product means you're going to multiply them together. So 3 over 4 times negative 4 over 3. And if that gives you negative 1, then they're perpendicular. So 3 times negative 4 is negative 12 over 4 times 3, which is 12. 12 divided by 12 is 1, and a negative divided by a positive is negative 1. So they are perpendicular. Okay. Now, if they're not parallel, or they're not perpendicular, then they're intersecting. Okay. So if they're not parallel to each other, of course they're meeting. But if they're not meeting in or intersecting in a perpendicular way, they're just intersecting. So either they're parallel, perpendicular, or they're intersecting lines. And that's really all there is to it then. Okay, so this is where your notes is going to stop, but I'm going to show you a couple of questions that you might get asked in your EOC or in your IXL. So just watch the quick question because it's pretty much the same thing we did yesterday. The only thing we're changing is slope. So just watch the rest, and then I'm going to release you to practice some problems. All right, so let's say the question was, write an equation that passes through the point negative 3, negative 1, and is, let's go parallel first, parallel to the line y equals negative 4 over 3x plus 1. All right, so write an equation that passes through the point negative 3, negative 1, and is parallel to this point. Well, the key word right here is the word parallel. Parallel means that the slope is going to be what? The same. Very good. So you find your slope. All right. So it's going to be the same. So for this line, the slope is going to still be 4 over 3. So m equals negative 4 over 3. All right. And then all you do is just like before, you label x1, y1, and then go ahead and plug it in to the formula. Now remember, you have two formulas. You have y equals mx plus b, and you have the y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. All right. Now we're not going to use this because I don't know where the intersection is, but I am given x1, y1 in the problem. So I'm going to use y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Okay, so that's the formula that I'm going to use. And all you do is now plug in the numbers just like before. So y minus, what's y1? Negative 1 equals m, negative 4 over 3, x minus x1, negative 3. Okay, go ahead and simplify. Y plus 1 equals negative 4 over 3, x plus 3. Okay, what do you do next? All right, remember, this is a fraction. You get rid of the fraction by multiplying everything by the denominator. So we're multiplying everything by 3. So we're now going to get what? Y times 3, 3y plus 1 times 3, 3 equals negative 4 times 3 is negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4 x plus 3. All right, go ahead and open the house. So 3y plus 3 equals negative 4x. Oh, and don't be rude, right? You're going to say hi to everybody. Negative 4x and negative 12. All right, go ahead and solve it. You're going to get, subtract 3 from both sides. 3y equals negative 4x minus 15 divided by 3. Y equals negative 4 over 3x. 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. All right. So this is the line that's going through the point negative 3, 1, and is parallel to this line. Remember, parallel means the slope is the same. So you see how the slope is the same? It's parallel to this line because, look, it does not go through the same y-intercept. Okay, so they have the same slope, but it's a completely different line. Now, if you were doing perpendicular, all right, it would be the same thing, only before you take the slope, you'd have to flip it and add a negative. So flip it, which would be 3 over 4, and it was already negative, then add a negative. So that's what your slope is going to be. The two negatives are going to give you a positive. So you're going to have positive 3 over 4. So this time your slope is 3 over 4. So it's the same exact thing. Put in x1, y1. The only thing you're going to change is that. It's now not negative 4 over 3, it's 3 over 4. And that's pretty much all that you need. If it's parallel, the slope is the same. If it's perpendicular, flip it and add a negative. And that's it.